I think I made like 150 phone calls today.
Now. Good evening.
Hello.
Everything that's happening now is happening now.
Right now.
Well, I saw Curtis Hoke on here already commenting. He's got the new Star 2.0 cam. So a couple changes to his bike. He was running the MHP 143 before with the Star 615 cam. We swapped him from the exhaust he had to the new MHP Top Fuel. We did a cam increase, so we went from the 615 Star Racing cam to the 627 full race, which is their new version of the full race cam, and it went from 181 horsepower to 188. Most of it was probably in the exhaust system.
Probably, yeah.
So new exhaust system out for the big motors. We're coming straight out of the head with pretty much a 2-inch exhaust pipe to 2 1/8, and then it's going into the muffler. And this is similar to the Burns 2-in-1 race pipe, which is their short exhaust, the NHB pipe they have. But what we've done is we've extended it and we've tuned it for making maximum torque on the bottom without sacrificing peak horsepower on the top. Really cool muffler. The muffler calms down the sound some, so it's not deafening. And it's got a sonic wave chamber in there that performs well and reduces decibels while having a great sounding exhaust pipe. I mean, what'd you think of that, Bill?
I love this pipe. You know me, I'm a big Thunderheader guy, but I would put this on my bike and run it. It sounds good, makes all the power. You pick up about 5 to 6 horse over the other pipes with this pipe. So,
Yeah, on a lot of our builds on 143s, you'll see them range from 160s to 180.
yeah.
And it depends on the exhaust. It depends on what the bike has in its full drive line as well.
Mhm.
So we have different outcomes. Wheels make a huge difference.
Huge.
So on dynos, you can gain 10 horsepower with the right wheel, and you can lose more than 10 horsepower with the wrong wheel setup on your bike. Chains reduce some output on the dyno. Transmissions, if you do a big baker, it will reduce some horsepower on the dyno. So some of those make the dynos different. Even though it's the same engine build, you see different numbers. But an exhaust is a very critical component to the overall outcome of the build.
Mark Ruppel, what up, buddy? I'm glad you're doing better, healing up. Hope to see you on that bike soon.
Yeah, we've been talking about exhaust for
Long time.
10 years.
Yeah, so
It never ends.
never ends. Well, now that we got the big boy pipe out for the touring models, the next one is to work on it on the Softails. Burns makes a really good 2-in-1 that we've been running on some monster builds. The only problem we have with that exhaust system is the muffler is so big that you're losing some of your lean angle.
Mhm.
It's scraping, it's impeding on cornering to the right-hand side of the bike.
We lost the internet, Randy.
Randy, we can't see him.
Can
we
anybody
go.
hear us?
It's back. You
Hello.
yelled at
Okay.
him.
Thought it was the big one. Guess not. Guess we got to go to work tomorrow. Another cool thing about that pipe is the heat shield. So it deflects some of the heat away right where your leg is. Because I know we're not alone in a lot of these big monster pipes. The heat shields are as expensive as the pipe itself.
So we only have a small heat shield because your right foot is right in front of
Yeah.
the exhaust right there. That's where your heel's going to be hitting it, where you're getting a lot of the heat when you're have your feet on the ground at a stoplight or just sitting on the bike and not riding. So we have a heat shield in that bend there that's closest to your right leg. And it's optional. It's not on all of them. We have a lot of guys that want the exhaust out of the heat shield, so it's an optional heat shield for it. So if you have a big motor build, 135 on up, you want to get some extra ponies, you want the exhaust to go all the way out the back of the bike because you want torque throughout the whole RPM range, this is the exhaust system for your bike. If you are swapping exhaust, you are going to need a retune.
Yeah, 100%. And we get those in black, natural, polished, or jet coated silver.
I like the jet coated silver. That looks nice. Not bad.
Yeah, it's different for it, especially if you don't want to keep up with a polished pipe.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Raw's been a really good hit. Of course, black. Everyone's got black bikes now, so black is the most popular.
I've been growing this beard out since I was 18.
Yeah, never trimmed it.
Nope. That's great.
Just Coors Light and water.
But I am 50 and I have all that hair. So
Good for you.
I guess if my beard grows slow and this hair stays the way it is, I'll take it.
Toad style. He doesn't realize that you haven't cut it in 2 years.
Yeah, it's not a joke.
that is grown out.
Well, I won the bet. Well, I'm about to win the bet that I couldn't grow one.
Mhm.
That's a 2-year bet. Got staples in my head right now. I had a skateboard accident.
I want to see the video.
Yeah, sure.
It's probably
Actually, he probably did. Did
Yeah.
someone throw it at you? Is that what you mean by a skateboard accident?
Yeah.
Well, on the front, we have some new stuff coming. We should be able to start tuning the 23.5 CVOs in the 24 touring bikes. We have a new computer system where we're moving the ECM, got a replacement ECM, and we're going to be doing or Mike is going to be doing some testing and tuning on the dyno. And if everything goes well, we might just come out with a cam shootout on a brand new 24 to show you what all the newest cams in the market can do.
Hopefully before the end of June.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I got a lot of phone calls for it, probably 5 to 10 a day, asking if we can tune the new bikes. And I tell everyone to wait patiently. I got a list. I'll call you back when we can do it. So I'm excited to do when we can.
Yeah, we have a really cool option coming. It's going to have all the functionality of the factory system, but we're going to kind of be limitless on what we need to do on the tuning side. And it'll then open up Pandora's box for all the builds we're currently doing on the M8s to be available for the new 2.0 M8 with the new heads and everything else. And the motors will run a lot cooler because of that new cooling system, the way they've designed the water to go through the heads and the volume of water through the heads. The factory bike with the factory tune, it's a 50-degree difference in exhaust temp, head temp, the overall temp, and 50 degrees is huge on that bike. So cool stuff coming, just a matter of time. We're just excited. It's about time.
Yeah.
Yeah, long time coming.
Yeah,
It'll be worth it.
It's going to be pretty exciting because, I mean, even the factory stage 2 that we did with the factory Pro Street tuner was what, 135 foot-pounds of torque and 127 horsepower or
I think
something?
it was like almost 140 torque.
Yeah.
It was up there.
So when this ECM comes out, we're going to throw that Screaming Eagle 511 cam into the mix to see what it does.
It's a good camp.
Like we said, when they went racing, they learned a lot. And what happened at the track is definitely coming on into the bikes and their Screaming Eagle line. And the cam timing is different. They learned that if they can have an alternate timing set up for the front cylinder as the rear cylinder, that the bike can make a little more power. So you'll see more of that be explored this coming year.
I recommend Superstition Harley-Davidson if you are in the Phoenix area. I used to work there. I know 2 or 3 of the really good techs that were there when I was there are still there. Matt, the service manager, they've got a really solid team.
Yeah, Restream, we're excited. It's about time to be able to put some cool parts in these bikes, so we're excited to see what they do. New intake, new head, everything else. The cam that Mike just talked about on the 117 was a ripper right out of the box from Harley. So, you know, those heads aren't really going to make more power for the bigger engines, the 143s and everything else. But for stock size engines, you know, 128s and below with stock heads, the new head and intake systems, it's a benefit.
That race port's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Someone was asking about Thundermax. We don't tune with Thundermax unless we're doing like a turbo application. It's just not really our style of tuning. We like to use Techno Research, but we can tune with Thundermax. We just don't prefer to do it, but we usually use Techno when we do it.
Well, the Thundermax is an inherently closed loop system, so you don't have the stability of a set tune because it's always going to be trying to correct itself. It is also, I believe, an 8 or 16-bit base memory system versus a 32-bit from the factory ECU. So it doesn't have enough memory power to be able to transition as quickly or handle all the systems a factory ECM does. So the factory ECM, if you can get that tuned, is a much superior option than running a Thundermax. But the factory ECM does not do, you can't do a dual stage tune in it. So for like turbo applications, they don't work so well. You have to run a piggyback on them.
Now, this new ECM, we're going to be testing this coming month. It will have options
Yeah,
for
we can do it all.
alternate plugins. So we can handle boost. We'll be able to handle a 2-step. Some really cool stuff. It's going to be more expensive than your normal application we see with a Power Vision or a Techno Research or some of the other options available. But yeah, it's going to have a lot more options and capabilities with it. So we're excited to get our hands on it. As we dial it in and get everything really ironed out, we'll start to let you guys have the full details, and all the guys in line for the new bikes to be built might want to start calling Nick, because we're about to blow wide open with a new bike.
I got a list right now, so if you call, you're probably like 25th in line, if not more. I got people hounding me every day. It's ridiculous.
Everyone's been waiting a while.
They have been waiting a while.
It's been what, January? We got the bikes out in January, and the trickles some out actually December before January. So we're halfway through the year, and we're finally about to get there. It is not a max ECU, similar, but not a max ECU, and it doesn't require a wiring change of the motorcycle.
Yeah.
But great question, Corey.
Yeah, I don't know any of the dealerships in Phoenix that will add a lot of aftermarket parts. I know all the dealerships on the West Coast are a little nervous about some of the EPA hammerings that have been coming down. So they will work on the aftermarket bikes, and I'm still in contact with those guys. So they will buy a lot of parts through us and do things to take care of your existing builds, but I'm not sure about getting a new one.
Yeah, and every state has different emissions laws as well.
Yeah.
You know, some states test for them, some states don't. Your state is going to determine what the shops do and how they operate. Big difference where we are in the South compared to some other states out there. Any tuners in Pittsburgh? Do we know anyone in
Not really.
Pennsylvania?
No.
Well, closest one I know is this guy's in New York.
Yeah, we got some guys in New York. We got some guys in Maine. Still, shoot, at that point, we might even be closer.
Rob D. So you're talking about doing a stage 2 with our 485 cam and the 64 throttle body from Screaming Eagle. It's a great setup, but our big Burns pipe is just too much for that. But if you're talking about our Burns header with the Chromeworks mufflers, probably my biggest go-to setup for it. The Burns header and the Chromeworks mufflers is not quiet by any means, but it's like nice going down the road. It's not going to blow your ear off, maybe like a Thunder header of this pipe, but
The Pro Stock header?
the Pro Stock, yes.
So that's the MHP Pro Stock header. Fits underneath your factory heat shields. We're going to run that when you want to keep two mufflers in the back.
Correct, yeah.
So when you want to have the dual looking mufflers, that's the exhaust. And that thing's proven. We've been using it for 5 years now. And on the right build, like a 135, it'll make 170 plus horsepower.
Yeah.
160 torque all day long. Yeah.
But
Awesome torque curve.
But it's also got such good flow that you can start with just a 485 cam and it'll be just fine for that too.
Correct,
You won't
absolutely.
lose your bottom end.
No, it helps it. And the other benefit of it, because we're using the factory heat shields on that head pipe, our head pipe, the Pro Stock header built by Burns, is the factory heat shields were designed to keep the exhaust as far away from your leg as possible, because the farther away it is from your leg, the cooler it feels to you. So that one also is probably the coolest feeling exhaust that we have on these larger setups. You know, we started going to over a 135 or 137. We're kind of at the limits of that exhaust system where we will go to a bigger one. But on that setup he's doing, the stage 2,
Perfect.
Thunder header, great exhaust for that bike if you want a 2-in-1, a D&D, great exhaust for that setup too.
Our Pro Mod pipe.
Pro Mod. Yep, the top fuel, it's the big boy. It's for the big boy engines. The 117, other than Screaming Eagle cams for the new bikes, all the cams from all the previous M8s will work in it. The only thing that determines if we can do more is how much distance we have at top dead center on lift of what we can do on that engine setup, and how much air the ports will let us cram in there to get a little bigger cam and a little more power out of the current setups. But you're going to see, as soon as we're able to tune the 23.5 CVOs and 24 on up touring, you're going to see all the cams that were currently being installed as stage 2s from all the aftermarket companies be available in the new engine.
Yeah.
And then you will see progression on starting to really tune them up. I think we can get a little more lift on them now.
The maximum run out I would ever recommend is whatever the paperwork for the component says. I think with the Screaming Eagle cam plate, it's 5,500 or 5,000. But I wouldn't recommend ever going beyond what any of the manufacturers of any of the components you put on say. You can do whatever you want because they're your parts, but there's a reason that they have those limits.
Someone's asking about like an exhaust clearance if you have 14-inch shocks. The Thunderheader is probably my favorite one because the back of the muffler tapers back. So when you run a Thunderheader on a big shock, it allows you to have some more clearance, especially if you have like an aftermarket swing arm, and if you have like a 14 or a 14 plus shock. That we have great luck with the Thunderheader.
Yeah, and if you're running a axle adjuster on the back,
Yes.
we've been working with one of our partners, and we're real close, maybe a month or so out from having a resolution to sucking in the axle so it doesn't come so far over into the exhaust, because we do have to modify a lot of mufflers to make them clear the axle adjusters, and it's kind of an issue on some of the bike builds. Horsepower is easy, you know.
It's never easy.
All these problems. Curtis, tell us about your brand new Recluse clutch setup you got in your bike. He got the first one installed that wasn't on one of our personal bikes, and it's working on my bike with nitrous flawlessly. It feels great. It feels like a stock clutch, but I have no problems with it slipping or not holding the power. Down shifting's great. Upshift smooth. But if he can put some comments in here on that brand new clutch, that'd be awesome.
He's probably putting a band on his forehead from that skateboard. Give him a minute.
That was really. Scroll down just a little bit. Let me see Philip's comment. Now I can look at the S&S cams. I don't know what it means. I'm missing some of it.
Probably.
Oh, do you have to hit the little arrow to drop down the rest of his comments by Philip?
No.
So there's like a down arrow right under his P?
Enhance.
Enhance.
Okay.
Type of message.
Philip, give me the rest of the question, man.
Well, sometimes they're while they're in the chat, they're talking to each other too. So somebody else.
Yeah, I
might.
think people are replying to each other.
Yeah.
So it might be a reply to somebody else. That's really why we're here, is to open up this chat room so they can all engage and talk to each other, answer all your own questions.
Well, something that's cool about the brand new bikes is Harley has identified that the performance bagger scene is growing. So right out of the box, they put 320 millimeter oversized rotors on the front of all those bikes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we were running before. You know, we went from a 300 millimeter that was stock, and we would upgrade you to the 320. Now, if you have anything before a 24, the bike is coming with an oversized rotor on it right from the factory. Mm-hmm. We see a lot of guys put really cool rotors on their bikes, and they add them, and they stay with the factory sizing. You're really not getting any additional braking. Unless you're going with a caliper that has more brake pad surface area, or you are slowing down your rotor by increasing its overall diameter, you're not really increasing your braking power. And right out of the box, they're giving you a robust, big rotor out of the box, which is really nice on those bikes. And you can notice it.
It's huge. Hargrove loves his new CVO. He said that's his favorite bike he's ever had. Right out of the box. Just put a cam in it, some good tires, bar seat, all the normal stuff, and he's fallen in love with that bike.
He has the ST?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the ST is one of the best bikes Harley's come out with in a long time, especially in the CVO lineup. And what's nice about the ST was it was actually a little cheaper than the rest of the CVOs. Because the rest of the CVOs, even though they don't have the cool carbon fiber stuff, they have that VVT in it. The VVT is more expensive. They kept the VVT out of the ST model, put some carbon on there, and the price point was actually less than the regular CVOs. So they did a good job with that bike.
And I ordered one of the pulleys and the belt so that we can change anything that we can tune to the gear ratio, because they should have done that years and years and years ago, because that ST has a 1 tooth larger or 2 tooth larger front pulley, so it's got a little bit bigger belt, and the gear ratio makes it feel torqueier, so you're about 400 RPMs higher. So when you're in 6th gear going 80 miles an hour, instead of being at 2,800 RPMs, you're at 3,100 RPMs. So it keeps you, they finally started listening to.
Well, they dropped the tooth in the front to make it have more torque on the whole more RPM.
Yeah,
They dropped tooth, and it's a little smaller belt.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
It's been a long
Thinking
day.
of rear sprocket. We closed at 6. We came up here at 6. We didn't have a brake. So what they did is they made the front sprocket that comes right off of the transmission smaller. I believe they dropped a tooth.
Yeah, it's 30 instead of 31.
Yeah, 1 tooth in the front is like you changing 3 teeth in the back. So it's a pretty good move. So if you want to get into your RPMs quicker, now you can buy the front pulley that comes on the CVO ST in the same belt on the ST, and now you have the setup right from Harley-Davidson without going the aftermarket world. Harley does a really good job with their parts and the fitment in the overall configuration.
And it'll fit any M8.
Mark Maxwell GP front suspension drop-ins. It's probably the #1 front suspension we sell here, other than the inverted. I run the GP on my bike. I believe you have the GP on your bike,
Yeah,
Mike? Yeah,
I have it
we
on
run
mine.
+2s. We don't always recommend it for everybody. We kind of sink the tube up in the tree about an inch or so to level the bike out. You don't really need it, but if you turn a lot and you like to hit the corners, I like to run the little taller suspension. But GP, best customer service, best quality, in my opinion, cartridge you can put in the bike. I love GP. I can't say anything bad about them.
Well, we see a lot of guys messing around with suspension now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys talking about it, raising the bikes up to this size in the back. So sometimes when you're looking at your bike, you can't have the front of your bike higher than the rear. You throw the whole geometry off. So when you're lifting the bike and going for performance, there's an optimal height for your riding speed, and you go too high and the bike flops. It doesn't feel good at low speed maneuvers.
Get a wobble.
And you get a wobble. So you don't want to go too tall. Too tall is great if you're king of the baggers and you're hitting corners at 120 plus. But when you are messing with the suspension, the front of your frame should always be lower than the back of your frame. A good ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch. Yeah, 3/4 of an inch is what we shoot for. From the front of the frame to the rear of the frame of where you want the bike set up so your steering neck angle is in the correct. So just because you do 2 inches over in the front doesn't mean your bike can handle it. Therefore, we have to play with your forks in your triple tree to get the right setup.
Randy, can you scroll just a little bit?
Well, we got comments on the Big Bear drop-ins.
There you go.
We've done the Olins. We've tuned and messed with the Big Bear, GP, and it's really hard to beat the GP. Big Bear goes over raising the bikes and doing the height they want, but once again, it depends on how much weight you're putting on the bike. The speed you're cornering at the most is going to determine how high your bike's going to be. So it's not one size fits all on suspension and height.
Yeah, everyone's different.
Yeah, everyone's different. And even if you weigh the same as someone else, but you're not hitting the same roads and you're not hitting the corners at the same speed, you should have a different setup on your bike.
And whether you go with the GP or the Olins, I mean, they're both,
Top tier.
yeah, they're A1 suspension. So the valving is different on the GP than the Olins, which is the biggest difference. And the adjustability of the GP and the ease of installation is why we prefer it. But I mean, I don't really think that any normal person can outride either set. So it's not.
It's true.
You really wouldn't notice a difference
Yeah.
in either one. One is a 25 millimeter cartridge kit, which is the GP, and the Olins is still on a 22. They are looking at coming out with a different setup, and they're getting better. They're understanding that their product is taking off in our world, the Harley-Davidson world, and they're excited about it. So they're going to have more product come out to the market as well. So stay tuned. Cool stuff coming.
We have now tested out the Big 60 exhaust for tracks. I don't even know what that is. This is for the turbo, or haven't seen it.
Well, it's big.
It's
big and
And
sexy.
it's sexy.
Ooh, it sounds nice and expensive.
It probably sounds great.
Best suspension for stock height, GP or Olins. Pair it with a Screaming Eagle Olins rear shock is great, or a traditional Olins like HD 044. It's hard to beat, but yeah, stock suspension height, Olins or GP.
And for all around comfort, doing your back shocks is going to be
Huge.
a lot more noticeable than your front. Your front will help you when you're hitting really large obstacles or if you're pushing really hard in corners. But for all around just comfort and rideability, doing your rear shocks is going to you're going to notice that much more than anything you do in the front.
And we prefer to go with the Olins in the rear. It is a performance-driven shock, which most of the times when you get a performance-driven shock, they're rough because they want to be stiff in a corner. But the Olins is plush, and it gets rigid when you really lean on it. because of the valving they have in that shock. It doesn't get aggressive right away. It doesn't get aggressive until you get into the stroke a little bit more where it tightens up. If you have a stock shock and you're hitting, a lot of time when you come up to a bridge on a highway, you're rolling 70, 75, and you have that, little bump there. I see a lot of guys stand up, take a little weight off their butt. You put those Öhlins rear shocks on your bike, you're not worrying about standing up anymore. It's a big difference.
I'm gonna try to find a bigger one.
A bigger
A
shock.
bigger bump.
A bigger bump.
Sometimes I see bigger bumps. I'm like, oh, I'm standing. I'm getting off my seat for this one. I don't want to get hurt.
If it starts making a whole lot of noise, I'd have somebody look at it. If not, I would ride it.
We haven't seen a lot of difference on swing arms. They look pretty. They're nice.
Yeah.
I don't think they really change anything
I like
other
my
than
stock
looks.
one. I'm not gonna lie.
A stock swing arm,
Yeah.
a factory Harley-Davidson swing arms is heavier, but the weight's low. It's where you want the weight, and it is a rigid, stiff swing arm, and that's what we want out of it. We have seen a lot of the aftermarket spherical bearings in the front side of it
Recently,
wear out
yeah.
a lot.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you do have an aftermarket swing arm, we recommend anytime you're changing your oil, jack up your bike, get your rear end off the ground, and see if you have side-to-side play. I would say half of the bikes we get in the shop that have an aftermarket swing arm in them, they're toast.
Yeah.
They're toast when they get to our shop.
My
We'll
personal
replace
bike, my Dyna was like that too. Same thing. I just put all new bearings in it.
them. And you rode it,
I haven't ridden it since I put the bearings in it, but
but you rode it to destroy it.
oh yeah. It's just a toy.
Yeah, don't let Nick ride your bike.
No, let me ride it, please. It's always more fun when it's not mine.
Tires
If
are
you-
cheaper.
I don't have to pay for anything. Just put some
Tires
fuel
are
in it.
cheaper.
Yeah.
If you do motor work and you hear like a real light tick at a certain RPM range and it happens from the beginning and it goes away at a different RPM range, just go. It's fine. If it starts getting louder or starts going throughout the RPM range and you can't get rid of it, then you might want to have somebody look at it. But if it was there ever since you started and it sounds the same all the time, disregard. It's probably just a little bit of valve harmonics or something.
Yep.
And they all have a different tune as far as, or a tone that you can hear that the Valvetrain resonate through the metal. I wouldn't worry about it. You'll know when you need to have somebody look at it.
Well, car engines do the same thing. The difference between, a V8 in a car of a brand new, whatever you have, and your bike is you have a hood, you have detonating insulation material on the inside of the hood, you have a
Firewall.
firewall with sound deadening insulation in it too to calm that down so you don't really hear it. The bike, you have 2 feet from where your valves are,
Yeah.
turning 4,000 RPMs to where your ears are. So it's a lot. And then the bike is all metal down there. You have fins on, air-cooled engine. Everything is amplifying the noise a little bit too. Sometimes we have a transmission output bearing go out, and you would think something's coming apart in the engine, and it's in the transmission.
Yeah.
We've seen all kinds of stuff where it sounds horrible too when something is failing. Not just, valve noise, but when something is failing because you're so close to it, it sounds like it's somewhere else. So
Well, we had somebody come from Texas with a loud motor noise that was a loose exhaust end cap.
but we like him. He's one of our favorite customers.
Well, you don't know, it sounds catastrophic, whatever the noise is, because it's amplified through the metal and you're right there. So, when you're riding it or standing next to it, you can hear it. And it sounds like it's coming from everywhere and your engine's about to blow up and, it's your floorboard vibrating. When you put your foot on, we have that all the time. Somebody say, I got a real bad engine noise. You put your foot on the floorboard and it goes away. And you're like, well, I can give you new rubber bushings for your floorboard and that'll make your engine sound way better.
Yeah. And we touch stuff to see what's rattling because we're around them and fixing that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So it's just prone. So if you hear a noise and it doesn't sound normal, while the bike is idling, like Mike said, I'd be touching exhaust heat shields, trying to hold them, see if it goes away. Floorboard, horn,
Yeah.
end caps on mufflers.
Pulling your clutch.
Yeah, if you see anything rattling funny, take a look at it.
They're right there. I'm like, you want the good news or the bad news? And he's like, give me the bad news. I'm like, you drove all the way up here because your end cap was loose. And he's like,
Yeah.
The good news,
There you
you're an amazing riding, so you can go take your bike and go enjoy yourself.
Yeah. This is cheap. Australia.
I
That's a
don't
Mike
think
question.
that the sealed in bearing is going to last as long as the OEM one. You know, you run those on all of the belt drives, and I usually had to change mine every 20,000 miles, where the standard bearing and inner sleeve with the seal on the regular inner primary, they might go 150,000 miles with no issues. I mean, nothing's bulletproof, but if you're just changing it because you want to go from the oil bearing to the sealed bearing, I wouldn't do it.
Garrett Anderson. On a built 117, what RPM is acceptable for highway cruising without lugging the motor? We really don't want to see under 2,500 RPMs.
Ever.
So
Even if there's a fire.
they love RPMs, 26, 27, 3,300. Those are great RPMs. You get down to 23, 24, you're getting down there a little bit low, and we don't want to see it. I know some of the bikes with small cams, like a factory cam, will do that fine. But if it's a built 117 with a larger cam, it wants a little more RPM.
The little ones do too. They all like that. 3,000 is halfway there. They love 3,000 RPMs, which is why I like that new pulley system, because then you can actually use 6th gear. I mean, I don't ever use 6th gear. You got to be going 100 to use 6th gear. It's worthless.
Yeah, who rides at 100 miles an hour? That's ridiculous.
My one.
Not me. Speed limit's 70. That's 5th gear. Maybe.
515, Garrett Anderson, 515. Who's making the 515?
The SE.
SE?
517, but same thing.
Or is it the
Well,
old
the
515, original?
The 131 stage 4 comes with a 515. I
An
believe.
OG one.
There could be a lot of factors that do that. Exhaust is a huge one.
Garrett, what size is your engine?
117.
It's probably a 131.
Yes, we do offer a chrome inverted Kraus front suspension kit. If you want to do it, we can probably do it for a Softail too. It's probably a 2-month lead time when we do it. But yeah, we can get it done. It just takes a little bit of work. We got to send it all over the country to get it done. But we did a beautiful chrome front end on a 21 CVO for Mr. Montine, and it was awesome.
That's funny. For Garrett, for your bike, if you wanted more power, a little bit lower than the RPMs you were talking about earlier, easy cam swap will make that thing come on a lot sooner. If you want to talk about, give us a call at the shop. Ask for me, Jamie, or Nick. Either one of us will help walk you through that of the right cam. But if you like waiting until 3,000 or 4,000 RPMs, I can't remember what you put on there, that cam's great. But if we can do a aftermarket tuner and do a cam swap on your bike, you can probably get some peak power and a lot more torque early on your setup.
And I imagine a lot of it's his exhaust.
Yeah. But Randy, can you put the phone number up there? Can they see that anywhere?
Just about to.
Boom. Email address is awesome. horsepower@moonshineharley.com. They can send stuff tonight, and then Nick will try to email them or call them tomorrow. If you guys do send us an email, we respond the quickest if there's a phone number. It's just sometimes it's hard to sit there and write 10, 20, 30 emails. It's easier for us to nail out 10 phone calls than it is to do 10 emails.
Horsepower at Moonshine Harley.
Yeah, the Kraus inverted fork, that was cool. We were excited to get to do that job for our customer. It took a little while, but man, beautiful.
It was.
Beautiful setup on his bike. And then he had polished risers.
Mhm.
And
The gauge cluster, all that.
so he was like, hey, I can't have polish when everything else is chrome, so we had to chrome that stuff. If you want a custom build and you want some chrome parts, we can handle it.
Well, I think we're doing it on your new 24, aren't we, Chris? We were talking about that when you were here.
Restream, you know who that is? Pork chop?
That's
Yeah.
the questions from Instagram. I'm just copying and pasting. So
We did a
their names
130
right there.
one from his Dan.
Pork chop and penguin.
Yep, great guy. He had a surgery on his hand, so he has been putting some miles on his bike. We recently did some powder coat work on his bars for him. Yeah, 131 brakes, all the good stuff. Loving it, Mr. Blaylock.
Low rider, low life says he's just hearing the tick between 25
Yeah.
and 3,000 RPMs.
I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
normal.
It's probably part of that rocker system too. It's just the harmonics
That
that
reverb.
is experiencing right there. Like we said, it wants RPM. Once the motors have RPM, they have a little more oil pressure and everything else too. Stuff calms down.
We use Techno Research to tune our bikes.
The spring MHP race day, man, they've gone to just kind of, we rent the track out for ourselves now and go, because turnout was good the first couple of years and then it started to kind of fall off. I think it's because we only have an 8-mile track and it's local, hot that time of year for a lot of guys too. So we kind of shut it down for now. We want to do some other stuff in the future with maybe some bigger races that have some purses. And Cash Days was really cool. Cash Days was what, last month in South Carolina that A1 Cycles puts on. Awesome event. If you guys haven't made it out to there, the biggest, baddest bikes on the drag strip are out there. And those guys are throwing everything down to have bragging rights. It's a cool show. So that'll be next year in, I believe it was May. It should be May again next year.
Oh, what compensator do you recommend, Jamie?
Wait, maybe you bring one up?
We almost had to cancel tonight because we didn't have one on the table.
We ran out of room. Exhaust takes up too much area. So we love the factory compensator design. It's designed to compensate that much for a reason. So now we take the comp ramp and we make it out of unattainium indestructible metal so it doesn't fail, because when it does fail on you, it takes out the clutch basket sometimes, it takes out the clutch, sometimes it takes out the chain. We have seen destruction and chaos because someone was running a stock comp with just a cam build.
Yeah.
And it just blew everything apart. So ours is made by Liberty Gears in America. It is CNC'd. It's got a treatment on it that we've been working on for 4 years now, and it's on probably its 5th rendition, and we've never had to replace one.
Not once.
So you're one and done. It feels like factory, and then guys are like, "Oh man, this factory piece. I want a race bike, performance bike." We run it on our drag bike, 200 plus horsepower. We are running that compensator on our race bike, and it needs to leave smooth like that and not hit hard. And it's nice. It's nice for upshifting. It's nice for downshifting. It does the job. It's smooth and quiet. The tensioner, we have gone back to the Harley stock tensioners because we're running the Harley geometry of the front comp. We're just replacing the piece that breaks with a better piece. Now we can go back to the chain tensioner the way Harley designed it, and we have no issues.
Yeah, zero.
Clutch setup, we like the Recluse clutch. Torque drive, the reason we like it is it can handle, we kind of max out around 170 horsepower on that one now.
Mhm.
And it feels like stock. It might be 5 to 8% more than stock on your left-hand clutch lever, but it feels really nice. We don't like it when you're trying to ride in traffic and you've increased your lever by 30%.
It's the worst.
It's the worst. It makes the bike miserable to ride. You will not like it. That's why we go to the Recluse. Now Recluse is brand new clutch. What's the whole system called?
I'm not sure. I know it's about $2,000 for the whole deal, though. $1,800.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Man,
I think we should know. We sell a
getting
ton
it.
of them.
Yeah.
their new clutch is a whole brand new. It'll handle 200 horse. So if we are building a larger motor, we will go to that new Recluse clutch, and it is a beast. We had it on the dyno with my bike, 220 horsepower
Yeah.
with
Fine.
nitrous hits, no problems at all.
Bagger trash. We've used a few of the Bassani super pipes. Actually, it's a really good pipe. We do a lot of them on stage 2s, some stage 3s. Anything above that, you're probably losing a little bit of bottom end because that pipe's so short, but not a bad pipe for stage 2 or stage 3. And then Rick RW81. We use OEM injectors on cam builds. It's not needed for our setups on there. I think it's overkill.
Yeah. If you have an M8.
Yep.
So the new clutch from Recluse is their Apex Complete Kit.
That's what it is, yeah.
It's going to have the inner hub on the clutch, and it's going to have your pressure plate in it. It's a whole design for a whole system, and it's a lot stronger than pretty much anything on the market we've seen, because where the inner parts of your clutch frictions or your plates are rubbing on the inner hub, they are not rubbing on aluminum. They actually have these steel pieces that are bolted inside of it, so it's not going to wear as quick as we see some of the aluminum inner hubs on the clutch. And it is robust. It's light too. They've lightened the pressure plate up. There are 3 options for 3 different spring setups for your output and your horsepower to determine, you know, what your lever's doing. Great system.
And the Apex is a lot better for real hard riding, like if you do a lot of launches, because it has an oil vent system that comes through the the hub into the plates from the inside. Because one of the downfalls of the regular torque drive, because you have the reason that it works so well without having extra pull on your lever is because it has so many more plates. So it has a significantly higher friction area than the stock clutch, but the plates are really thin, so they get hot faster. So if you like go to a track day and you're doing pass after pass after pass, and you don't let your clutch cool down, you'll smoke that clutch. The Apex clutch, since it has a vented hub, is a lot more resilient to heat because as the hub is spinning inside the primary, it's getting lubricated from the inside out.
What's nice too is the pressure plate and the inner basket. They're like locked in when you're fully disengaged, and so it keeps everything from twisting and warping, which is very nice. When we were on dirt bikes back in the day, the Hinson clutch was just like that, and it caused a lot of issues if you didn't have all that twistage in the clutch and causing the basket to break. See, is my D&D Billy Cat 2 holding me back? Not at all. The D&D Billy Cat, we run that on 135 cubic inch motors and have 0 issues with it. I would say the limit of that pipe is in the 160s in horse, maybe kissing 170, having no issues with it.
No, I would imagine for you, Garrett, it's probably more in the tune and just other stuff. That's a good exhaust. That's what I would run.
Nah, thunderheader or die.
You can show them what you're talking about.
See?
Yeah, you can do
That's exactly what I said it was.
that thing weighs nothing. Yeah. It's letting a lot of oil in where it needs to go.
So you can see how many friction driven and dry plates there are, which is how it gets such a good clamping area because there's a ton. But they're so thin, they get hot faster. So this new hub, because it's got these slots in it as it's spinning in the back and on the sides, as it's spinning, it pushes oil out into the plates to help keep them cool. So it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, really cool setup.
And the guys at Recluse, they're super innovative on everything they do.
And these are the steel guys I was talking about earlier. It's an aluminum inner hub, but they are steel inserts in there. That way, where your clutch disc are pushing on this inner hub, they are pushing on steel instead of aluminum. Because a lot of times on clutches, after you've been using them a while, you're going to get wear on these inner pieces, and it's going to bind up your clutch and not allow it to release all the way. We see a lot of guys come in with performance builds with that chatter marks all over their inner hub on their clutch setup. So this is going to wear still, but because it's steel instead of aluminum and it's treated, it's going to last a lot longer. Really, really nice setup for your clutch setup. It's nice to have something to be able to hold these bigger motors we have without having to be Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Or, be Jacqueline Hyde. So really cool product. We were excited to test it for them and excited with the results.
It's really easy, actually. You come down here with money.
And I just swipe a card, I put a
Yeah.
type a little bit before I go, the bike's done.
Yeah, we'll put in the order, and then you can come pick it up.
And Nerf 4, I'm absolutely down. Curtis, how many miles do you have on the new motor? Sure, you read that thing a ton.
We also have all the products that are sale like right in front of you,
Ah, very cool.
like Combo Power, the Recluse, all that.
Well, something else we wanted to go over is we started to pair together complete induction systems for the M8. And one of our most sold setups that we have is we do the 66 millimeter ported intake manifold. So this starts off life as a Harley 64. Frankenstein Engine Dynamics does the port program for us, and this is the MHP 66. So we have seen this pick up torque and horsepower on every stage 2 build we've put it on. So it's a really good piece in our program. And we typically run it with a 64 millimeter throttle body. There are times where the 64 millimeter throttle body is not available. They go in back order, can't get them. So we came out with the replacement. And when we come out with a replacement part, we want to make it better. So we came out with a 66 millimeter throttle body to get more air in. These 4-valve M8 heads want more air all the time because those intake valves can flow a ton of air even at low lift. So 66 millimeter throttle body, we've opened up the throat or the opening of the throttle body to make it larger so it no longer works with a Harley backing plate. But we have our air cleaner setup, which is the MHP air cleaner kit. We have a couple different covers for them. These guys, we have a short filter and a tall filter. This is the tallest 3.5 inches. The short filter is about 3 inches. And the big one can handle 200 plus horsepower on the dyno. When we're dyno tuning the drag bike we have, it made over 200 horsepower with the filter on the bike. So really robust filter. It's made in the USA by Green Filter for us. The backing plate is all CNC'd. It's a little bit more money than most of them on the market, but the way it goes to the engine and how it seals everything up is superior to some of the other ones. And we touch a lot of intakes.
It's all O-rings.
So we have O-rings that go right to your cylinder head to seal there. There's O-rings in this port where you're going to be putting your bolts that go into your head to breathe. And we want to run it to where it's breathing back into your intake manifold. I know there's a lot of talk on the internet, but they have to breathe in the atmosphere. But sometimes having all the vacuum of the engine sucking can evac your engine a lot more efficiently than just breathing it to atmosphere. And you'll actually perform probably better with putting your evac system back through the intake system. And if your motor's sealed up right and you have good ring seal, you're not getting a lot of oil mist on there. If you're getting a tiny amount of oil mist, it is an air-cooled engine, and it's also lubing the back of your valves, your intake valves, so it's not going to hurt anything. No matter what, you're going to get a little carbon built on your pistons. Once it gets to a certain amount of carbon on your pistons, it's pretty much going to maintain that for the life of the engine. It doesn't just keep building and building and building. So really cool intake system. And so you have your intake manifold, you have your throttle body, your backing plate with your filter and air cleaner cover. So this is on our site, shop.moonshineharley.com, complete system.
Right now.
Yeah. And soon we'll have that available for our monster heads with a complete system like that too, if you are looking at doing your own build and you need some of our cool parts.
We do offer that intake system for a 64 millimeter as well too. So
Yeah, so these are available for a 64 or stock,
yep,
a 55, a 64 from Harley. They're available for all of our throttle bodies, which currently we're doing a 66 and we do a 70.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we're working on these 24s, you might see a 74 come out soon. Cool stuff coming down the pipeline soon.
Bike build number 6, still ripping, streets up.
diddle back, well, something like that.
David, he hit me up the other day.
Nice.
David, call me when you have time. Let me know if we need to do more for you. I know you're thinking about doing something. He wanted a whole build list on his bike the other day. Yeah, more carbon. It is more compression height, and carbon reflects a lot of heat.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get a lot. You're going to get a layer on there, and it's going to maintain that. So, yeah. Randy, you got a comment on here. Camera quality.
Camera quality
is
is insane.
It should be. If you can see what's going on right here, it's unbelievable.
Well, there
A
are,
long way.
yeah, there's 27 cameras.
It's just him holding a cell phone over there. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's, those
Well,
apples.
we started that way.
That would be the day.
Take this shit.
What size manifold should I run, keeping the 117 and doing a cam? This is your intake manifold. So there's issues on these intakes because we only have, what is that? Not even 3 inches from port to port. We have to make this turn very aggressive. And your front head is doing it's a lot more aggressive corner. So we like this manifold. I don't know if you can see in there, but there's winglets. See these wings in the manifold? sometimes they impede on the flow numbers on the dyno bench, but running the motor, dyno proven, those guys are out actually helping the air turn the corner to get more airflow in. So we like the Harley 64. That would be a great manifold for your build. But if you have maybe about $150 more than the factory Harley one, you can get our MHP 66 millimeter ported manifold. It'll flow more air, and you'll make a couple more ponies with this on your 117 build. So that's what we recommend. You can run it with our 66 in this setup, or you can run this manifold with a Harley 64 millimeter throttle body and one of their air cleaners or someone else's out there. So we run that on
Everything.
all of our ported heads, and we try to run this on every cam build we do. When you see a cam build make more horsepower than normal, we put this on it.
Garrett, we love the Screaming Eagle oil pump and plate. That one is probably our most used one. Second place would be S&S. They're both top tier. You can't go wrong with either one of them.
I have the Screaming Eagle oil pump plate on my bikes. On my bikes. Now, that wasn't always the case, but now that they're racing, their performance parts are at the level we need them to be from an OEM manufacturer. They're great. Some of the benefits of the aftermarket oil pumps, not all of them, but you want to look at, the Screaming Eagle has it, is they have the screens on the pickups on the oil pump, and they have magnets on them. So if you do have a failure in your cam chest, we're able to, or the pump is able to minimize the amount of material that makes it from that cam area to the rest of the motor. And that's critical. Sometimes just going with the aftermarket pump and plate, you get that extra insurance where if you have a failure, it's limiting the failure to the rest of the motor.
We've seen it too. A couple issues with some bottom ends, and the pump saves it.
Oh yeah, the pump saves
Huge.
it. Parts are laying in the bottom of the oil or the cam chest cavity. They're stuck to those screens, and we're replacing some parts instead of all the
All
parts.
of them, yes.
Last intake question. Still stick with OEM injectors on your ported intake or throttle body? Depends on your build. If it's just a cam build, we've yet to need a 5.5 or larger injector on a cam build.
We've done it. It's not worth extra $300. We're not seeing any gains for anybody.
Yeah,
Put that money somewhere else.
you can go to the 5.5s if you want on a cam build, but it's not required. We haven't seen us sacrifice horsepower because of the injector size. The stock injectors are perfect for those cams. And most of those cams, they're closing around 28 to 32 degrees. So they're early closing cams on most of the cam jobs on the bikes that are factory piston and cylinder and head.
Dan, tell the wife she only can have the Thunder header. There's no other choice. Sorry. Just kidding. Yeah, we can do a polished
Hey, Dan,
thrasher pipe.
I'll sell her the other pipe.
Australia, thanks for tuning in.
Big G Day. Is that Scooter?
There was someone earlier that was asking about extra cooling or oiling for if he does a 135 on a Softail. You can get one of the fans that are temperature run fans, but the OEM system will pretty much handle it because it's once it hits the oil pressure, the oil is going to go wherever it needs to go, regardless of the size of your motor. And any extra pressure is going to bleed off with your check valve. So the oil systems are plenty to handle whatever you put on there. The extra heat is going to be mitigated through proper tuning rather more than the oil.
If you do have a touring bike and you have the oil cooler on the bottom, we do recommend the Harley-Davidson fan kit for it.
Yeah.
Because when you're sitting in traffic, if we can pull air through that oil cooler down on the bottom of the bike, it does benefit temperature to calm it down just sitting there idling at a stoplight while air is not going by your engine. While you're rolling down the road, bikes run great. The only time we have the heat issues is sitting still.
I don't recommend any of those systems that take the oil filter and move it to the side of the bike, and then they add another cooler, and you add like 3 feet of extra oil lines. None of these systems are designed to have that much movement of the oil. And it seems like every single one that we see that has that on there has problems.
Yeah, we like the factory oil filter as well.
Yes.
You don't
Yeah,
have
the
to buy
factory
a
oil is
high
the
dollar
best.
oil. Yeah, because you're going to throw it away. You're going to run it and throw it away. If you're worried about the oil filter, just change your oil more. Change your filter more. I mean, you can change every 1,000 miles if you want. It's easy to change the oil on the bikes.
Well, nobody ever does the math. So a factory oil filter is $12. And one of those cool billet aluminum ones that's 15 microns, it doesn't even stop all the particles, are $160. So you have to change your oil 12 times to break even on that metal one that does not stop the particles from going in your motor.
Yeah, the factory filter is great. Don't go crazy. There's other parts. There's other stuff to spend your money on.
So if you buy that aluminum filter 70,000 miles later, it'll pay for itself.
It is shiny.
It is shiny.
It is shiny. And we don't like adding a bunch of lines to increase the volume that the oil pump has to push before it returns back
Yeah, it's
to
not.
where it came from. Harley, when they made the water-cooled engine, they had less oil go through the top of the engine. Well, just not having those two lines go 2.5, maybe 3 feet down and 3 feet back, they're like, hey, we need less oil pump in the bike. So if you're adding 3 feet of lines and you're putting an oil filter behind your left passenger foot peg and 3 back, and we're not able to put a bigger oil pump in the bike, might be an issue. So we're not really a fan of adding a bunch of length to the oil system because the factory oil pump was designed for a certain amount of volume and distance of the oil passages in the M8 platform. So keep that in mind as well. You can overdo some of the stuff.
For Rastorori M8, I don't think I would swap an SNS 550 instead of your Star Racing cam. If it's not very loud, I'm not sure if you mean by like decibel level. That would just be your exhaust.
Well,
Don't take your baffle out. Look at a different type of exhaust that is louder but still has the right amount of pressure.
yeah, and then take the heads off and deck them. Get some compression in that bad boy. That Star Racing cam, you can up the compression a little bit. It will love it. So not sure your head's set up, but if you could take 10 thou off those heads, or maybe your piston's in the whole 10, you can get 15 thou less and still be 225 cold cranking compression. You'll be great, and it'll pop a little more as well. So sometimes it's related to compression and exhaust setups.
Well, it doesn't create noise.
Compression does.
Well, it just makes it shorter, but it won't make it louder.
Makes it snappier.
Yeah. I don't know what he means by loud.
Yeah, I don't know. We need more info.
Yeah. But if it's a 128 on stock heads,
But we got a 143 though.
it's probably
It'll
got
be loud.
it's got compression.
A loud
143, we can do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we make them too
We'll,
loud.
we'll put that pipe on. It'll be loud.
It's snappy.
Could be you.
I don't know. Shock 1. Pride Red, is that you?
It's probably me. Stock heads on that cam. Yeah, I would upgrade to a set of heads. I would put a 93cc heads or 1.5s in there from Frankenstein, and that'd be huge gains for you on your bike. Way too big of a cam on stock heads, in my opinion.
Yeah, Shock, the clutch you're talking about, if you can watch this video back, we talk about the brand new Apex clutch. It's right here in our hands. There's the inner hub. There's the frictions and your plates. And the pressure plate over there. Awesome clutch. If you have some horsepower on your bike, really cool setup. I mean, even if you don't have all the horsepower, still a really cool, robust setup, even for a cam build. If you want to spend the extra money on that piece, money well spent. Can the stock M8 casting handle the 4.5-inch stroke? Well, the 4.5 stroke is stock, so maybe you mean something else, Eddie. And if you do,
I think he probably means a 4.5 bore.
Yeah, the case can handle it. It's
Yeah.
just we have to clearance the case to handle it. We haven't had a broken case yet on a 4.5-inch piston.
No.
No, we haven't seen it. We have seen it when they take the stators off the bike to race, because that stator assembly actually makes the front half of that engine case rigid. Yeah, 66 millimeter intake manifold. Restream is great for stock heads. We run this on our cam builds. So if you're doing a build with a camshaft with stock heads, this will help the stock heads breathe. The more air we can put to the head, the happier the M8 is. So absolutely.
You can change throttle response without a dyno. Yes, you can. But be very wary, because if you think you need more throttle response, you are probably going the wrong direction. Usually when you make the throttle, if you make the throttle too fast, then you create the same issue that carburetors had, which is why they have to have an accelerator pump, where you will open up the vacuum so quick the engine can't respond as fast, or the fuel can't respond as fast as the engine's trying to accelerate. So you'll actually kill the motor. And the way people try to fix that is they add a ton of fuel at the bottom, which just bogs it down. So I don't know if there's something else going on there, or might want to just give me a call like tomorrow, and we can talk about what you're trying to achieve.
Exhaust can play a big part of your throttle response and your snappiness of your bike too, depending on what you're talking about. Exhaust is just as important as the head, the camshaft, the intake. It's the opposite side of flow. If you can't flow out correctly, you're not going to be able to flow enough in, because it'll get backed up. And then there's exhaust that can really help the bike be snappy. So give us a call. We'll go over your setup and what our recommendations are and how we can help.
Trey Larson, those are O2 sensor codes. So it's probably has something to do with whoever's tuning your bike. Yeah. If it's too lean or too rich.
They probably maxed out his throttle control, his throttle response, and then added fuel.
Shrock, man, beginning of this, we talked about it. We should be tuning at 24 later this month sometime. It might be a week, it might be 2 weeks, but we have an option to start playing with them and seeing what we can do with those new factory heads with some camshafts in it. So we're excited. It's long overdue.
If you run the 66 millimeter intake manifold, you're going to want to pair it with a 64 millimeter or our 66 millimeter throttle body. It wouldn't really make a lot of sense to keep the stock 55 millimeter throttle body and then open it up into a great big tunnel. You might as well just leave the stock one on there or upgrade the whole thing. You won't go wrong by upgrading to a 64 with a cam install. You're just going to make more power.
Yeah, Restream says he's got a 132. MHP 132 builds. We haven't done a 132.
Negative.
131, he corrected it.
And response is slow. It just depends on which setup you have and where you're talking about the response. If you have an ass eater setup and you're under 3,000 RPMs, yeah, that's a top end one. We have a torque eater that comes on a little quicker, and it makes power on the bottom. And then we have the ass eater, the power is more geared towards the top and running out the back end. So depends on which one you have. Give me or Nick a call at the shop, and we can go over what it's doing and some solutions for you.
We use a lot of Chromeworks pipes for the new 24s. We use the Outlaw pipe. I'm actually doing one next week. They were on back order for a little bit, but if you want to do it for that bike, that's my go-to right now is the Outlaw from Chromeworks.
Well, the 24 D&Ds just came in.
Nice.
So D&D now has a pipe that'll fit the 24s, and we have a pallet of them.
They'll be going soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, the issue on the 24s is where that new cam sensor is. The nose cone on the cam cover sticks out about an inch farther, and there's wires, and the exhaust for the original M8 style, sometimes they'll hit right where those wires are, and that's a no bueno. So a lot of companies have had to kind of go back to the drawing board. Chromeworks is usually a little bit ahead of the curve since their parent company helps Harley design their exhaust. They kind of know what's coming before a lot of the other companies do.
Will Boyd, you can run a gear-driven cam on your bike. The main thing is you need to check out your runout. If your runout is above, I believe, like 4,000s, 5,000s, you'll have to check that first before you can do a gear-driven cam on your bike. Usually we don't do them unless we do a built flywheel.
Dwight, we can probably do cams in the 24s soon. You know, might be 30 to 60 days, but it should be coming.
You know, the flywheel setup is pretty solid on the M8s. We haven't seen. There's a good chance that you're going to have run out that's going to be acceptable to mount with the SNS or fueling plate.
If not, we try to keep built flywheels in stock so you don't have to be down 2, 3, 4 weeks and wait for Dark Horse. We keep Dark Horse flywheels here ready to rock and roll, pre-built with everything needed and our MHP lightning rods on them. And we do that so when guys are building their bike or run into this issue, we can get them a flywheel rather quick. We just need you to send us your flywheel. We have to inspect it to make sure there's no damage on either shaft on the left or the right because it goes through the oil pump. We can have it retrued by Dark Horse, but if you ding it up in shipping on the way here, we can't use it as a core. Then we'll have to bill you for a brand new replacement flywheel to be built into one. But when you call us, if you need one, we'll go over shipping. We'll go over how to package it, the whole 9 yards. Sometimes if you can't get us the flywheel up front, we will charge you for a replacement flywheel. Then when you send us yours back, we can refund that money to you. The reason why you might want to do that is we can send you a cool box designed to ship the flywheel. Flywheel's heavy, 30 pounds or more of weight in a box, and if it doesn't have the right support in there, it will get destroyed on the way to us. We've had multiple flywheels get destroyed in shipping.
It's almost like those UPS drivers don't like picking up heavy boxes.
Well, anytime you ship anything, you better package that bad boy like it can make it off a 4-foot drop and a 25-mile-an-hour slide.
Like Ace Ventura in the hallway, kicking the box down. We don't have any of the Outlaw 2-to-1s in stock because they just come off back order. But if you want to put one on order, they're probably about 3 to 4 weeks out right now.
Yeah. And we can have them drop shipped as well.
We can, yeah.
And we have the D&D 2-in-1s in stock.
Very
so
true.
if he wants that pipe,
the
we have that
D&Ds
available now.
In the best color available, black.
Ashley Ruppel wants 131 on Mark's wheelchair. Yeah, we can build him a trike.
Yeah.
Harley trike wheelchair.
All the traction.
We'll posi the rear end so he can't turn. Just pushes the tire.
Will Boyd, yes, we've done a lot of gear-driven setups. Usually it's more of a torquey setup when we do it on 128s, but it's been a while since we've done a lot of gear-driven stuff. But we have done it.
Old school. Asking if we bore our cylinders in-house. Yeah, that new addition to our program is we now do bore and final hone in-house. We also deck the cylinders in-house. We have another company that helps us with overflow, which is QMP Racing out of California. Brad over there has one of the best setups for dialing in cylinders, and he's kind of a mentor of ours for cylinder finishes.
Dwight, the D&D pipes run around $1,600. Then you'll have to get an end cap for it. End caps could be $100. It could be $160, depending on which one you want to do for your bike. I don't need any tequila. Well, water is good for me. Thank you, though.
Did I scoot over? Do I need to move? What's going on?
I think you got me sick.
Well, I wasn't sick. So.
Well, you're about to be. Allergies. It's terrible in Tennessee.
Yeah, QMP's awesome, Tex. Brad over there is a wizard. And if I run into anything unique, I call him. He's built us some measuring tools for our shop that allow us to get precision measurements that are hard to kind of get. It's hard to hold a piston perfectly and measure them without a fixed setup. And if you can find QMP Racing on YouTube and just watch Brad. He is a plethora. He has a plethora of knowledge on just cylinder finishes. He does a lot of pro stock guys' cars, a lot of the guys racing for money, for careers. He takes care of their stuff. So check him out if you haven't seen him. Q&P Racing in California. The guy that owns the shop, his name is Brad.
The downside to any short pipe is you sacrifice low end torque, so you don't have a huge hit coming right out of the hole. They tend to have a really great peak, mid range torque curve, but your low end is going to sacrifice, and depending on the design, you'll lose some top end as well because you just don't have any pressure to withhold the sound wave, the reverberation wave.
Restream, call me. I'll be at the shop Monday through Friday. So if you call tomorrow, you can get hold of Nick. He'll be at the shop Saturday.
It's HD Lowrider S.
And you're off Sundays and Wednesdays now.
I am.
That's the best schedule.
I don't know if best is the exact word,
That's the best.
but it gets the job done.
I've been on that one for a long time. That's cool.
Some
Australia.
fast guys in Australia.
Yeah. Someone was asking about a HPI Shorty. HPI Shorty is going to sound awesome. It's going to look great. The bends in it are awesome. Their welds are amazing. When you run shorter exhaust, you sacrifice low-end torque. If it's a soft tail, we kind of sacrifice that on all the pipes out there because most of them are finishing before the axle, so they are shorter. If it is on a touring bike, you are going to give up some torque and you are on a heavier bike. So might take that into consideration. Sometimes to fix the low end torque loss you're going to have, cubic inch is a torque multiplier. So if you have more cubes, you're going to make more torque down low to offset that. But then again, HPI's exhaust is kind of designed for a stock size engine, maybe to a 124.8 without heads. You started to go over that. We're kind of limited on what that exhaust can handle. I guess it goes to 131 of heads, just nothing bigger. So most setups.
Dark Horse Man at Wharf, awesome flywheel. We don't use their commentators much, but we use our own, so that's why we don't really like them.
Well,
They're rough behind them.
The Dark Horse compensator, it's noisy and it wears out parts in your primary a little faster. And riding the bike, we didn't really feel a lot of performance gain as far as the extra wear and noise you're going to consider. I mean, if it made the bike feel a lot snappier, or I felt like I was making a lot more horsepower on the dyno, and I was pre-wearing some parts out, and I was making a little bit of noise, I'd be happy with that. But to not get the benefits of more performance and have those issues, we've gone back to the Harley setup. There's a lot of engineering in that Harley setup. Now, we love Dark Horse and use them for almost all of our flywheel builds, and they have a great product. It's just preference and what we're looking for. Most of our riders are everyday riders and not just guys on the track.
It wasn't a mistake, but you are going to notice considerable more noise coming from your primary.
Especially just at idle.
Yeah, just only at idle. Once you get under acceleration, it'll all be the same.
Yeah, just beef up the compensator ramp. That's all we do here, and it gets the job done. All of our bikes have the same ramp in it, and we put miles on them.
Well, I don't know if everyone understands how the comp works or why it's there. It's there because of the firing order in the Harley. It's not a smooth firing order.
It's 540.
Because it's so far off. It's not like a V8 where it's piston, hitting, piston, hitting, piston, hitting, piston. It's like hitting, not hitting, not hitting for a while. So your primary chain gets tight and there's a lot of slack, tight and a lot of slack, and that compensator has to move a lot. And the compensator is mostly doing its job at idle and then on and off power. On the power, off the power is where the compensator will grab that chain to try to keep it tight as well and do most of its work. You want to answer, James? I'll be going.
Yeah, James. How much am I leaving on the table using the stock header with the Reinhardt 4-inch mufflers? A lot. When we use our Pro stock header that's made by Burns, we use that header with Chromeworks mufflers. It's huge. Reinhardt makes a good product, but they fall behind Chromeworks. Chromeworks, in my opinion, has the best baffle you can put on any muffler. And then the factory header with the cat in it is just restricted. You're really only getting airflow out the right side muffler. With our Pro Stock header, you get a full-size crossover. It has anti-reversion built in on the right side of the pipe as well. So definitely a game changer. We can get out that factory header with the cat in it. Plus, the heat from the cat will cook your passenger's foot. So when you go to our Pro Stock header, it will cool down your exhaust a little bit. You might not notice it, but your passenger's right foot will definitely notice it a little bit.
The baffles that Chromeworks have, the reason why we like them is we have interchangeable baffles with their systems. And we can start you with a smaller build, and then we can swap just the baffles out for larger builds. Some exhausts you can't do that as easy. And the Chromeworks are easy to install and uninstall later for an upgrade. The compensator is a wear item. Our comp ramp does not break. We've never seen a failed comp ramp. The springs behind the compensator do wear, and usually between 20 to 30,000 miles is when you want to replace them. If you're beating on the bike hard and you're doing like a 10K service where you're gonna have the primary cover off and you want to replace the springs, you can replace them early. We don't like some of the aftermarket compensators on the market that have smaller spring packs. There's a reason why the engineers at Harley made that spring pack so robust, and it's because it's getting utilized a lot, and that spring is working hard. That's probably one of the biggest wear items we have on bikes as they age.
Yeah.
The twin cam compensators from Harley didn't break. They weren't making as much power as we're making now, and we really didn't have problems with the factory compensators on twin cams. We get a lot of questions on that. It's just the M8 because we're making
The Screaming Eagle 110s, when they came out like 12, I think it was, the compensators only went 20,000 miles. That was it. The twin cam compensator, every 20,000 miles, you'd be changing them on CVOs. It's like clockwork.
the whole comp or just the spring pack.
We just replaced the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, they were
The
different.
whole kit.
They were a different design, so they didn't wear the same. But yeah, we would just put the Screaming Eagle comp in it, and then 20,000 miles later we'd do it again. It's good money.
Well, as long as the customer knows what to expect, it's okay. It's when you don't know
Yeah.
what to expect with a part.
Well, you know, any CVO with more than 20,000 miles isn't worth any money anyway.
Hey man, we get some of them with some miles on them. We get some CVOs that are brand new that someone just bought and they like took them to Alaska. That's the worst place to take a bike. We've seen some guys buy some high dollar bikes and trash them in a year. We love it though.
Oil, we use a lot of Harley oil here, and we use Bellray. Those are like our top two. Harley oil is fantastic. I run that in my bike in the engine, and then in my trans and primary, I run Bellray primary and Bellray hypoid.
And most customers we see with oil, they're changing the oil every 2,000 to 4,000 miles
Yes.
typically because they, you know, they're not miling up as quick as their car. It's easier to change, easier to maintain, and it's their baby. And if you're changing oil that often, it's not getting to the level of deterioration where you're going to start to wear parts out more. So if you're changing your oil pretty consistently at low miles, man, you're going to be great with even bad oil in all reality.
Yeah, any 20W50 that's rated for V-twins is going to be fine. Don't run car oil in V-twin motorcycles. It's too slick.
Possum Lodge. If I was going to be building your bike, the 124 is a great kit. I would swap the cam around, probably swap the comp around, and of course put a thunderheader on it. But other than that, that's what I would do. I would do our Moonshine 492X cam. It's a 522 intake lift and a 535 exhaust lift. The reason why we run that cam, it's just like an all-purpose cam. You can travel on it. You can go rev it up. It's just a great all-around cam. We pair that with a set of valve springs from us. They're our Moonshine 640 lift springs. It uses a titanium retainer of the chromoly woven spring. Nicest spring out there. Haven't had one failure of spring as well. But if it was my bike, I would swap the cam around and then get you on a better exhaust. You can run that Dark Horse comp if you want, but I just prefer a Moonshine comp. It's quiet. I don't have to hear a rattle on the side of my bike.
Give Nick a call. He'll
Yep.
go over the build, go over pricing for options,
Yep.
and then really help you tune it in.
You should generally change your fork oil every 30,000 miles or 10 years.
Shoot, they were easy on the 95s. Weren't there just a plug in the bottom of the fork?
Yeah. Then you screw it on the top and pour it in.
Yep. Put the plug back in.
Use the wife's measuring cup though,
Yes.
and then put
All
it in
the
the sink
Tupperware.
with the residue oil in there. She'll love it.
She likes that. They all like that.
Yeah, the Moonshine comp is pretty much stock. The difference is it's not going to fail. It's going to be able to take the abuse those comps take without having a failure, and that's all we need it to do. We just need it not to fail and cost you more money and problems. And be broke down on a day when you're in Daytona and you're ripping around with the boys having fun, or in Sturgis. I mean, nothing ever breaks when you're pulling in the driveway.
Well, they don't ever do anything other than just ride around. I don't know. I was just riding along and then it just locked up. We have one of those right now at the warehouse. They're coming to inspect tomorrow, and the compensator broke, and a piece of it flung into the clutch basket and broke the basket, and it all like grenaded into the chain and locked the chain up, and it's all locked solid tight and bent the transmission shaft.
It's on our Instagram. So if you go to our Instagram, I think it's Metal for Breakfast is on the display. It's probably like in the last 5 or 6 posts. So if you want to see a video of what that looks like, check it out. The Moonshine Harley Instagram page, Metal for Breakfast.
Well, I'll have to add that one on there. It's a really good one when we pry it all apart.
Yeah.
They're sending an inspector to look at it, and he's like, well, we need to go take it apart. I was like, nah, we're going to leave that exactly how it is. Because they're like, well, we don't see why you need a transmission. And we're like, well, you will when you take pictures of it.
Man, we've seen some stuff. Remember when that guy dropped a bolt in the lower end of one of our customers' engines? Or that's how we met our customer. Someone left an oil squirter bolt loose, and it got jammed in the gears between the balancer sprocket and the sprocket on the flywheel. And when that happened, it just
blew out the side of the case.
blew out the side of the case, and
awesome.
it was done.
I don't know. I was just riding down the road.
The customer said it never made it out of the parking lot. He's like, I didn't even load it on my trailer. There's oil everywhere.
Yeah, and he went back, got his money back, brought it to us. They're like, we want to fix it. He's like, nope, you did.
Restream, we partner with Star Racing, and George, he's in our building almost weekly. The 3030 cam and our MHP 485 is identical. The difference is when we order both of them from Andrews, who grinds both of them, they put MHP 485 on ours, and on George's, they put Star Racing 3030. Best cam in our eyes on the market for an M8 right now. Now, I'll tell you what, that new cam on the 24s that Harley came out with is a pretty badass cam too, right out of the box from Harley, but not on the M8s before 24 or 23 and a half CVOs, because different head setup. So the cams are going to work a little different in the engines. But call us. We have them in stock. They're also on our shop.moonshineharley.com. If you're thinking about doing a cam, we have a whole kit. It's a complete kit with the oil pump and plate, everything you need, push rods, the fueling lifters. We like the fueling lifters because they are made by Johnson, and we feel Johnson makes the best lifters for cars or the motorcycles. There's another company called Johnson High Lift that makes lifters. They are not the same company. So the fueling lifters, they're race series lifters, are made by Johnson. They're what we put in all of our big builds. Awesome setup.
Yeah, Mark, you won. You ruined your bottom end the best. We get it. Your first place of destroying everything. You win. You and Monroe Hargrove are battling for breaking everything.
What did he break?
Mark Ruppel scissored his flywheel like 35,000. You're going to put a tool on it. They're going to see it, how bad the pinion was.
You're not supposed to tow bobcats with your Harley. Okay? Calm down.
Neutral drop everywhere you go.
Oh, man.
Valvetrain has a great pipe. That Pro pipe's awesome. That's one of my favorite pipes that they make. Probably one of the few that I would like to sell my guys.
I would do the MHP 485.
Yep.
And a 66 millimeter throttle body and intake manifold. Tune it, send it.
Send it.
original belt and sprocket, 10,000 miles. That's still breaking in. There's no actually wear limit for a belt. We've seen belts go 100,000 miles and still look good too. So just keep an eye on it.
Nick loves the Evolution clutch.
Well,
I love it. It's my favorite one.
On the belt usually starts to tell you when you're pushing the limits on the belt. If you inspect your belt, you'll see teeth start to rip in one of the corners, and they usually start to kind of flap if you can grab them with your hand before they start to rip off and you're missing them. A lot of times we don't see belts just snap in half anymore. We see them where they're missing a majority of the teeth.
Yeah, they shear the teeth off.
Yeah. Because the belt's really strong now. They have a Kevlar belt in them. Is that what they have?
They're carbon fiber cords.
Carbon fiber cords now in them.
Carbon fiber?
Carbon fiber?
Carbon fiber?
I missed all that.
Super strong, but what will happen is you'll start to chunk, rip. We have a couple videos that kind of show what to look for, but just get on your bike and start feeling those the teeth on your belt to see if they're ripped or coming up, because they'll kind of rip at the bottom corner and you'll be able to pull them up, and then it's time for a new belt.
We want you to get one of those Moonshine Harley upgrades.
Sweet
there.
Daddy
Sweet
Mac,
Daddy
call
Mac.
me. I'll get you hooked up.
You need to have that the name on the work order though.
Sweet Daddy Mac. Oh, I love saying that over the radio.
I know.
Work
Could you
order,
pull the
Sweet
parts
Daddy
for Sweet
Mac.
Daddy Mac?
Yes, I can.
We have a ton of results with the MHP 45 camshaft on a 128. If you call me or Nick, we can probably email you some dyno sheets so you can see them.
Very torquey. Awesome 2-up.
Probably 50 plus of those built, and yeah, it's a torque monster off the line. If you're running stock heads, that's great. If you're running ported heads, we're going to go to a different camshaft. But we also made a MHP 492 camshaft that was designed to kind of max out a stock head as far as keeping low end torque and as much horsepower as we can make with the stock setup. Jed Rides, have a good night, sir. Thank you.
Bushmaster. Of course, Jamie has the fastest bike. That's why he's in the middle. Okay. 139 on nitrous. He wins.
Where do you say that?
The bottom comment. Which of you has the fastest bike? It's all relative.
Well, Nick, I mean, your reaction time's not that fast either.
You want to go in the dirt? We can go play in the dirt. I'm too fat to put a suit on. That's why you're so good at going on the street.
But if we're in the dirt, we gotta have 3 or 4 beers first.
At least 3
3
or
or
4.
4, then get on the 110s,
Or
the
be-
Hondas thing.
We'll be broken ankles, limping all day the next
I'll
day.
have
at
a
work.
broken collarbone.
Yeah, don't get on 110, you just crash. Get on 250s or 450s.
The 110s
Die
are all
like a
right.
man.
You get on a little hot 50. The 50s when you start eating shit.
Yeah, your knees hit the handlebars, you get locked up, and go flying. I built
Corners are the worst.
Moonshine 110 ride? That sounds awesome.
03 Dyna, it's already punched out to a 96. Man, it's expensive to go much bigger. Really expensive on those setups. Sometimes, if we can do a crate engine. It might actually be cheaper than building yours, but just depends on what kind of outcome you're looking for. I would call the shop, get a hold of either Mike or Nick. Either one of those two guys are going to be your go-to for that build.
Yeah, 100 inches is great from S&S. Do a long block. You get a warranty from those guys too. It's a nice setup. Eddie G68. If you email me, Nick at Moonshine Harley, send me over all the stuff that they did on your bike, and I can see what I can look up. Sometimes they will restrict things that they did as aftermarket part, but again, email me, Nick, N-I-C-K, at Moonshine Harley, and I'll get you hooked up, see what we can do.
That's not his name. His name's to the right because you're adding those.
I know you keep calling him.
I keep calling him
just
Restream. I was
figured-
like, that guy's all over this page. It just dawned on me his name.
Before
to the
you
right.
when you all restream call me, I was like, his name. This is his.
It took you an hour and 35
Wow.
minutes to figure that out.
So
You were
we-
reading it. I'm like, where's Eddie?
It is. It is.
Shit.
We've been here for an hour and 45 minutes, and he
Yeah.
just realized.
We've never done it that way.
Well, I think it was 10 minutes in when he was like, "Who's restream?" And you're like, "That's everybody from Instagram." That's awesome.
That was fucking awesome.
See, it's been a long man. I'm telling you, we were busy today.
Oh, it was a crazy day.
It was
Hey,
crazy.
thanks for
today.
correcting me an hour and a half later.
We tried. We told you.
We
twice.
tried. We told you.
We just gotta roll with it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the Restream episode.
The downside, yeah, the downside to doing these at the end of the day is we're spent.
End of the week too.
Yeah.
Oh,
What is your advice
That's
getting
awesome.
a 103 stock dyno rebuild? What is the must do? Do not get short pipes.
Yeah.
Call us. Text, call Nick. Call Aaron at the shop if you're wanting something done. Kind of have a budget in mind when you call us, and then we can help steer you because a lot of guys call us and they want 150 horsepower on a twin cam, and we're like, hey, you're going to spend over 20 grand for everything you need. And they're like, oh my God.
Like, oh, wow.
So it's like,
what can I get for two?
It just depends on the budget, and then we can
T-shirt.
kind of tell you where we can land you horsepower wise and what to expect. And we'll go from there.
Neil Brown, I'm glad you're loving your build. It was a pleasure working with you. Maybe we'll do some more this winter, it sounds like.
Also, if any of you guys are thinking about upgrading to a new bike or need something, it's an easy process to call us at the shop. We pick out the bike. If you have a trade-in, we can evaluate the trade, give you trade values on your trade. We could pick out the build with Mike or Nick or myself and roll it into one package. What's nice when we do the build the day you buy the bike is sometimes we have additional funds from Harley-Davidson Financial, and we're able to roll some of the build into the financing if you want us to. Not all customers do, but sometimes we're able to roll 2 to 12 grand of a larger build into the financing to make it easier on you. So keep that in mind if you're looking at a new bike and you don't want to come out of pocket 10, 15, 20 grand for a build, depending on how big you want to go. That is the best way to do it. Well, Friday night starting. Now that I know what the repost is, there's not a single one coming up. But we'll remember this episode for a while.
Yeah. Like, man, this Restream guy,
Hey,
jeez.
Restream, line one.
Have we done a build with Restream yet?
When I realized it, I was like, oh, shit. Damn it.
That's funny.
That is.
We're going to call you Restream all next week. You know, you can't remember.
Yeah. Restream.
I'm just going to hone cylinders all week. That way I don't hear any of the pages. All I hear is.
Bushmaster, if you want to email me, Nick at Moonshine Harley, your paperwork, I can bring it over to Derek tomorrow. He's on reaching out to. Those guys are a little busy today. It was a beautiful day, beautiful week.
End of the month.
Yeah.
And they were slammed out there in sales. It's 55 degrees at night right now.
Yeah.
75, 80 during the day this week. So we had our work cut out for us.
Well, I think it's the first time that's ever happened to me. But 10 minutes before we came up here, I had a guy saying, I don't understand because he's about this life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you're right. I don't.
Yeah. I've only been doing this for 20 years. What do you mean?
20.
Not me, Mike.
Yeah.
Grandpa, he's been 20. Way over 20. Pops over here.
Ever since my crash, now everyone's building fast bikes to beat me, and I'm out of the game. Get a trike.
Yeah. Sweet Daddy Mac, not Restream. I did a 485 install on my stock 107. Big bore kit. Your 128 piston and cylinder kit from Screaming Eagle. It's a short stroke 4 3/8 stroke with a 4-inch 310 bore. That's your next step to be for your bike. Swap the cam. You can leave stock heads, put some valve springs on there, but that Screaming Eagle piston kit is nice. It runs a Maul piston. Very, very nice piston and cylinder kit.
The rings are awesome.
Reese, he should call you. He's thinking about going to a larger cubic inch. A lot of options there. Just depends on the budget and how far you want to go. The 128 would be great on that setup.
Yeah.
Also, we do a 131 where we can actually reuse that 22 XE cam, or we can up it a little bit to get more horsepower and do a cam swap. Just depends on the budget. I would call Nick before you buy any parts and assemble them, just because we don't want you buying parts twice in case you start to go another direction. They all don't work great together.
Yeah.
So we kind of help you make a package, price them, and get you the whole setup you need. We have aftermarket heads for 24s. We have monster heads, MHP monster heads and Street Fighter heads for the 24s. We just can't tune them yet. But we should have that fixed in the next week or two, and more will be coming, Dwight. So stay tuned. Heads have been done for 4 months now.
You know, it depends on the work that you are looking for. I mean, if you want a stage 2, we can get it done within a week. If you are looking for a 135 or a 143, we have to send cases out. You know, it might back that up a bit, but definitely give us a call or email us tomorrow. There, badassery right there, and we will, and we can figure out what you're looking to do, and a lot of what you're looking to do is what's going to dictate the lead time.
Yeah, stage 2 takes about.
It's not
2 days.
Restream IO. It's badassery right there.
Yeah, stage 2 takes us about 2 days worth of work. We do a 135, like Mike said. It's about 5 days of moving time on the bike, so it just takes time. But when we send the cases out, we got to wait for parts sometimes. It's just the nature of the beast when you want cool stuff.
Emailing you now, Nick.
Okay, Jamie's crying in the bathroom right now. So.
Like how he's like, why didn't you guys correct me? Like we did.
You only said it twice. I can't. I've been here 12 hours. I'm not doing anything. It's fine.
Yeah, we'll get you hooked up there, badass.
You gotta get the trick, Jamie, real quick. Pour a little bit of something. Don't tell him.
Oh, no. It's on camera.
You got
It's
that?
fine. He won't know till tomorrow.
He won't ever see it.
Yeah.
Is it worth the money to have my bike dyno tuned if I have a Thunder Max? Yeah, it is. It's always worth the money to have your bike dyno tuned if you have a good quality tuner, because even the Thunder Max, you know, we were talking about this earlier, it's a closed loop system that's always kind of trying to set itself in an auto tune, but the better base that you have on the computer, the less auto tuning the ECM is going to try to do. So you will have a more responsive, higher output engine, even on a Thunder Max, than you would by just driving it around and letting it trying to fix itself up. Well, unfortunately, instead of being at Laconia, we're going to be here working.
Yes.
So have fun.
Oh man, imagine if we all left for a week, everyone would be backed up another week or two.
Oh my God.
Everyone would be pissed. We'd have another live stream, and they'd be like, I tried to call, and you never answered. They'd probably yell at us at the booth.
Is this Restream?
Yeah, TTS tuners are great. We just don't use them here. They're just better stuff. Techno Research just gives us more access to the ECM, and we can control the throttle body and everything is way smoother. It's just preference to it. You have to figure out who you want to tune.
What's up, Jason? It's my hometown. Well, man, is there anything else big going on that we got to discuss tonight?
I think you talked about it.
We got to go back to the track. Bust out the dyno. You still have your dyno?
I have the dyno. I haven't sold it. It's in the
Fully
garage.
loaded?
I tried to sell it, but
We need a dyno standoff.
I don't know. I'm pretty excited to try that ECM. It's going to be cool.
yeah.
It's going to be fun. And we're throwing the 511 Harley Cam in the mix with all the 485s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And keep in mind, it's with the new head. So
Yeah.
what Cams did on the older style head and intake and what they're going to do on this one are drastically different. So new cams to compete with the Harley Cam. Shoot, some of these cams might be behind the Harley Cam. We'll see. You know,
Yeah.
The testing will show us, and we'll show you the results. And then, you know, if Harley's on top, the game begins.
Yeah, I was really impressed with what it did when we put it in that stage 2 and dyno tuned it with the Pro
Stock
Street
everything else too. Stock intake manifold, right?
Yeah, and it was stock head pipe with the Screaming Eagle mufflers and a Pro Street tuner. You know, you're limited on what you can tune, but what we could tune was awesome. So I think all of them are going to be huge. The gains that we're going to see.
Yep.
Making dynos great again.
Yeah. Head shake at 85 miles an hour is the best ever.
Oh, well. I think we're done.
Gonna call it.
Oh,
Oh,
we're not concerned about anything, Vincent.
yeah. Well, man, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate the support. If you have some questions after this session, call us at the shop. Randy, you got the phone number up there where they can see it. Boom, it's right in front of us.
It's
Give
right
us a
there.
call. Make sure you get a hold of one of us three. We have a big team. We have 45 employees in the building, and they're not. Some of them just aren't as knowledgeable as the three of us sitting here to really dive into the tunes, and that's why we get in front of you for the lives, so you can get to know us and know who to look for when you call in, so we can give you the best advice and get your build dialed in and get your build scheduled. So greatly appreciate everything. Lots of cool stuff coming. The new M8 options for it are about to bust wide open. We're super excited. The next couple lives we're going to have a bunch of information on what we find and what we're able to do on the new setup.
I'm excited.
I'm excited. Enjoy your night.
Yep.
Thank you.
Take care.